So there is currently outrage in Indiana right now after a couple who is accused of burning their babies' bodies and then making necklaces out of their ashes have had their charges dropped, and this is while police continue to look for more evidence. That is, even though there's a ton of evidence already that shows that these two are guilty. This story is just a mess. Listen to this. So 31-year-old Stephen Valley and 25-year-old Samantha Sabella were arrested in September of last year. This was after Stephen allegedly confessed to two friends about killing two children and then burning their bodies in the backyard fire pit. But in court this past Wednesday, the judge dismissed the charges against these two without prejudice, and that means prosecutors can refile the case against them at a later time. But the case should have never been dropped. Reportedly, the case was dismissed because there was no evidence that a crime actually took place. And that's according to their attorneys, but there was a ton of evidence. The Jasper County prosecutors say they expect to refile the case once anthropologists continue to sift through ashes and debris and other materials that police reportedly got from the scene. The process was described as difficult and tedious due to the small size of material they're having to sift through. Prosecutors are also reportedly going through digital data, and that's where the evidence is. So when authorities arrived to their home in Wheatfield on September 20th of last year, they reportedly found partial bone fragments that a specialist was able to determine were indeed human fragments. They were then arrested in October and charged with murder, neglect of a dependent, causing death, abuse of a corpse, obstruction of justice, and failure to report a dead body. So police said to begin with, the two of them denied knowing anything about children being burned in their backyard fire pit. And that was what they told deputies when they found them at a hotel on September 20th. The couple eventually admitted to having one child with no birth certificate or documentation because that child was born at home, but guess what? That child is nowhere to be found. The couple also reportedly denied ever having a miscarriage or a stillbirth. Now, y'all need to remember that when I'm talking about something else in a minute. The health department also had no documentation that Samantha ever gave birth. Police took their cell phones and they were able to find numerous messages that indicated that Stephen killed and burned multiple children. But again, charges were dropped. Make it make sense. One message from Samantha to Stephen reportedly said, "You killed my kids, you never loved me." Another one was in all caps to Stephen from her, and it said, "You killed our babies, I have their DNA in me forever." It was said a third undocumented child was then taken from their custody, thank goodness, because that child would have turned to ashes too. So then on September 30th, several agencies and authorities, along with two cadaver dogs, went to the home where they used to live. It was said earlier this year they had been evicted from that property. The dogs reportedly flagged a fire pit and a pile of ashes near the garage, and that caused investigators to excavate part of the backyard with shovels, and that's when they uncovered the bone fragments. By October 3rd, court documents show that Stephen admitted to police that Samantha had given birth to a baby boy in 2018. He reportedly told police that Samantha had given birth to a child while he was out, to a boy, baby boy. And he said when he got back home, he found Samantha passed out with the baby between her legs. He said that the child wasn't awake or breathing though. He said he then cleaned the newborn up and then placed him in a blanket and then placed him in a box. He reportedly told the police that he then buried the baby in the backyard after 3 days because he knew that the baby wasn't coming back to life. He told police that Samantha had gotten pregnant a second time and gave birth to a baby in a bathtub prematurely while he was at work. He said the child was dead and wrapped in a blanket when he got home, so he buried that baby in the backyard near where the first baby was buried. Police said that Brandon further told them that the babies had been buried for about 3 to 5 years before he dug them up and then burned their bodies. He then said he saved some of their ashes and made a necklace. All of this admitting he did. As the investigation went on, police actually learned that the two of them had also been violent with each other, physically violent that is, and determined that Samantha didn't take any action to protect her two deceased babies or her living child or herself from the violence. Authorities also noted that she made no effort to notify them about the kids' deaths, burials, or burnings. So therefore, due to no evidence, or supposedly no evidence, that a crime occurred, the parents are no longer in custody. Now y'all, this is crazy. Since when did admissions and digital data not count as evidence? Not only that, but authorities literally found bone fragments where they claimed the babies were buried. This is absolutely nuts, and in my opinion, no justice is being served. They need to be behind bars. Furthermore, how do we know what really happened to those babies? What's to say he didn't actually just kill them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and for more true crime, be sure to hit the follow button, and if you're over on YouTube, be sure to subscribe.